It's Eric with Island Expats, and I'm continuing my search for the best place to live as part of my Expat Challenge, after just completing the Manila and the BGC section of this trip. I'm now in Cebu, and I'm focusing on the Mactan and Cebu City area, looking for the best place for an expat like me to live. So come along with me as I look at various places and properties with the intent to move here in the next few months. It's coming up really quick now. My goal is to bring you along this adventure with me as I go from island to island, city to city, and property to property throughout the Philippines, searching for the best place for an expat like me to live, and possibly for you to consider for the future, if you so choose to make the move one day yourself. Who knows, maybe you will. Well, at this point, my home is sold and my stuff is in storage. So I'm just about ready to leave the U.S. to pursue this new adventure. So I'm really excited because I'm really close. So come along with me as I explore specific areas and properties that would make the smoothest transition possible for an expat arriving from a Western country. And this is where you come in. As part of this Expat Challenge, that's what I call it, because I'm asking for your help to determine where I should move to and why I should choose that location by using the comment section of this video to guide me to the right place. So I want your feedback. I want to know what you think as I take you from property to property and place to place. So let me know your thoughts as we go through this adventure together. That's kind of my goal. I'm looking for myself, and I'm hopefully looking for you too. Now that I've arrived in Cebu, this is what's happening so far. Well, first of all, the Mactan Cebu Airport is so much easier to navigate than Manila. So if you have a choice when you're coming from the west, always fly through Cebu instead of Manila, especially if you're going to change planes. Changing terminals in Manila from the international to domestic side can be really a headache, and it can take a couple of hours. I just went through it on this trip, and even with a couple of hours between flights, I barely just made the flight. It was kind of interesting. For the first time ever in all the years of my travel, there were 2 full security checks with X-ray this time, possibly due to the timing of the elections, but the second X-ray machine was right before entering the gate area, and that included a full passport check, boarding pass check, all of that. And then they put me through the X-ray machine with just my carry-on stuff. Never seen that before, so I went through it twice this time. But if you do come from Manila, it's only about an hour flight to Cebu, so it's not a big deal. I'm just saying the Cebu airport is just much easier to navigate. It's smaller and easier to make connecting flights. If you're looking for a place to stay in the Cebu City area that is rather central, somewhere between, let's say, Mactan, which is the island where the airport is, and then Cebu City, which is more where the downtown area is, I would highly recommend the Fairfield Inn by Marriott in Mandaue City. I had stayed there before my last trip in September, and then I stayed there again on this trip. The Fairfield Inn has excellent staff, really good service. They're really trying to please and help you. And the food, which includes a buffet breakfast, is just outstanding. In fact, let me kind of show you around the Fairfield Inn a bit so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, because the food here is just excellent. And it has both Western and Filipino dishes with several chefs for each meal. And since they're owned by Marriott, the quality is on the Marriott level. So I know in the States, Fairfield Inn might be more mid-range. This one feels like a high-end Marriott hotel from the service standpoint, and it's a newer hotel, and it's a great place to go because they're very helpful. They'll also arrange any type of tour you want to do. So the last time I was there, they actually provided a bag lunch for me as I headed south away from the hotel and checked out and went down to the Oslab area in order to go swim with the whale sharks. And I left at 6 o'clock in the morning. You have to kind of beat the traffic because you have to kind of go through Cebu City to get to the south. And they provided this bag lunch even though I left at 6 a.m. So that was really nice at no extra cost, by the way. And they set up some of the other tours that I did around Cebu City. So the Fairfield Inn is centrally located. It's not far from the IT Park, the Cebu Business Park, and the Ayala Mall. It's probably about 15 to 20 minutes depending upon traffic. So that is one option. The other option, depending what your preference is, you might want to stay at Marco Polo itself where the residences are there. There's the hotel there. And there's several other choices around the IT Park. Or you can go to Mactan Island and stay along the coast. A couple of things to make this easier for you. Be sure to download the Grab app, which is basically the Philippine version of Uber. And it's just a super easy way to get around the city, and that's what I did. When you come to Cebu City, don't bother renting a car, as there's lots of traffic that you've got to navigate, and it's better to have a driver, and very inexpensively, you can take that Grab from place to place. One thing to keep in mind, though, rush hour is from 4 to 7 p.m., so avoid being on the road during that time anywhere in Cebu City. You either want to be at a business park or at the mall or at the hotel, but not traveling because it'll take you 2 to 3 times as long to get from place to place. There's quite a bit of traffic in Cebu City. I wanted to show you what the room looks like at the Fairfield Inn, so if you decide to do that, at least you have an idea of what it looks like. All right, I just wanted to show you what my room looks like at the Fairfield Inn. So this is the major part of the room, the bedroom part. You can see it's not super wide. On the other side of these glass doors is the bathroom. So there's the bed and all of that. And then it's got switches on the, for the lights. And then basically as you come around here, you have the window facing towards the city. And then you have this little table and a little seating area. And then as you come around here, you've got a widescreen TV. So that's cool. And then as you come around over here, now you're got a little closet area. There is a safe. That's another thing that I require in the Philippines. You want to make sure that you're locking your stuff up. So they do have that, and that's easy to operate. So that's what the safe looks like. And then here's the bathroom. This is an active room situation here because this is, my stuff is out and everything like that. So, and I just took a shower. So I went swimming. They have a lap pool up at the top. Actually, it was pretty nice outside on the 6th floor. It's got like a deck area and all that. And then this is the shower, which is kind of interesting. In the Marriott hotels here in Asia, they have a different kind of a system. And this one in particular is like a faucet that you switch over to the head thing and then goes all the way up to the top. So a ton of water coming out of that sucker. The Fairfield also has a gym, a nice gym. It's small, but it has good equipment. And then a really nice outdoor deck and pool area on the 6th floor. And you actually can get service out there if you want to order food and it's in the afternoon and you want a burger or something. So here's what this pool area looks like. I wanted to mention that if you're looking for any type of visa services, to keep in mind a company called Filipino Visa, which is another entity within Christian Filipina. They offer both U.S. and Philippines immigration consulting services, and I have spoken to them myself, and I found them very, very helpful. Filipino Visa is very knowledgeable in the process, and they will help you handle everything you need from start to finish, whether you're trying to go to the Philippines or bring someone from the Philippines back to the U.S. So please see the link in the description below for more information, and feel free to contact them, but I found them very helpful myself. Well, I started off on this Cebu City round of the area looking for properties on the coast. So from the airport, it's probably only 15 minutes on Mactan Island. And there are several new condo developments now in that area. Mactan is kind of one of the hot developing areas away from the city, a good about hour from the city. And it's a really popular destination because there are places like Mactan New Town, which is really a self-contained area, meaning that it's almost like a city within a city. So it has condos. It has a members-only beach club, which I checked out, and I'll show you some of the footage. It has its own drugstore, its own grocery store, and there's a few restaurants there. There's also an international school and some other things that they're developing, along with a few call centers in a small way there. So Mactan New Town is actually a really popular destination for Westerners and for Europeans. There's a lot of Europeans by the pool area. Let me show you a few of these new units for purchase, just so you kind of get an idea. Okay, so this is studio.
Exactly, sir. Executive studio that we have. So here's the dining area, and that's the kitchen area.
Okay.
Too small.
Yeah, it's very small. I think too small.
And here's the living area. Well, this one is good for only one person or two person.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
The bed area here, and that one will be to give you the that you can make food or that kind of design.
Okay. Overall, the area is new and nice in Mactan New Town, but I found the pricing quite high per square meter. And I feel like the units are pretty small versus other locations. Pricing was at least as expensive as BGC, if not more, and you could easily spend between $250,000 US on up to $400,000 US plus for a very small condo there. So though you have the integrated city, it's very, very expensive in my mind. The studio condo, for example, was only between 35 to 40 square meters, which is roughly about 350 to 400 square feet for comparison purposes. You just really add a zero. It's not exact, but it's within 90% accurate as far as trying to estimate the size. So you're talking a studio of only about 350 to 400 square feet. It's not very big, and that would cost you about $250,000. Let's take a look at this one-bedroom condo, which is about 50 square meters at Mactan New Town in the sales office for Mega World. This unit has decent kitchen counter space for the size of the unit. You can see it comes with 2 electric burners. This unit has an interesting laundry area that you don't often see. So you can see that the living room is very much a narrow rectangle. And kind of the downside's pretty tight there, I think. The bedroom is manageable for this type of a unit. This next unit is a studio with a balcony, and it's at 36 square meters, and the property is actually the one Manchester Place property for Mega World. Here's the kitchen, which is small, but appears efficient, at least the way they laid it out. The living room looks pretty tight to me, and the bedroom, well, it looks okay for a studio. You know, there's just not a lot of room to store anything in a small unit like this except for your clothes. I just want to mention that we now have an Island Expats Facebook page. So feel free to check us out as we do our best to post something each day related to the channel. You'll often see pics and short video clips ahead of time that will soon be released in the next video on the YouTube channel, just as part of the content that we're working on for the next episode. We do our best to keep the content in parallel with the channel, but with more detail so it makes sense and it's interesting to follow along. We'll also release each new video from the YouTube channel also on the Facebook page, so you have another way to access the videos. Feel free to drop us a message on Messenger if you'd like to say hello or comment on something. We're always available there. Please be sure to follow us here on our Facebook page. And thanks for supporting our Island Expats channel. Overall, it's more of a buyer's market right now, as sales have been relatively flat in condo units since about 2022 in the greater Cebu City area, according to a knowledgeable realtor that I spoke to. And I guess there was a real run-up in pricing from the COVID period, after the COVID period. As you recall, no one really knew what was happening. They stopped buying properties altogether, so the prices dropped significantly. So those that did buy during that period or soon after, a lot of the owners saw a significant amount of appreciation in the first couple of years after COVID. Some of the values of the condos literally almost doubled in 2 or 3 years. So at this point, some of the owners are now looking to lock in those gains and exit, right? And then the other thing that's going on, I'm sure you've heard about, is that the gaming organizations, what they call the POGOs, which is primarily Chinese-type companies, or other nationalities, but that's the big one, they had bought floors of condos and had their people stay there, and they all were asked to leave the country over the last few months, and that has increased the inventory of condos in both Makati and BGC in the Manila area, but also in Cebu City. Now, there are other coastal properties in the area that you should consider. One of them would be the Reef, for example. It's relatively new, right on the ocean, whereas Mactan New Town, the actual kind of structure of the condos was mostly a ways down the street from the ocean, from the beach club. One of my favorite properties along this coastal area there is Tambuli. I've stayed there now a couple of times, and I've actually stayed in the condos there on the property. And it has a combination of both a resort, and then they have several towers. There's about 5 or 6 towers where they have these condo residences, and you can rent them through either Airbnb, Agoda, or Booking.com. So check out those 3 options if you want to stay there, but it's a really neat area right on the beach. And the difference really is that Tambuli is a resort-type compound. It has its own integrated beach area along with restaurants, and it's in what they call the Mirabago area of Mactan, right? So if you look that up, that's kind of where they are on the coast. Again, just roughly 15 minutes from the airport. One of the things that I like about Tambuli, and it caught my attention the first time when I stayed there back in September, is that they have 24/7 security for the complex all the time. To enter the complex, there's a physical guard gate that's manned 24/7, and then once you get past the guards, there are individual guards posted in each tower in the lobby. There's currently about 6 towers or so. They're continuing to build out the project, and they will continue to do that for several years. There's a sales office there on the property if you're interested in talking to them. And I just say one of the differences here versus other properties that really makes it stand out is a couple of things. First of all, it has 3 separate nice restaurants. And though the food is pricier, it's really quite good. It's nice to have these restaurants right on the property. They even have an outdoor pizza oven, and they have excellent pizza. So if you go there, get the margarita pizza and tell them Eric sent you. It's one of my favorites. Now, Tambuli has a series of pools with a tropical landscape theme. And there's a lot of pools, actually, 5 or 6 probably. And then in between a couple of the towers, there's a separate lap pool for just full-on just lap swimming. Nice to have it separate away from the resort area because people do go there for the weekends and bring their families. It also has a very nice gym, and the gym is for residents only. So even if people are coming to stay there for the weekend, or if you're going to rent a condo, you actually can't use the gym. But if you're renting a place there, then you have access to the gym or if you own a place there. They also have a really nice game room that has like a pool table and foosball and things like that. There's a separate volleyball court, a sand volleyball court, and it has its own private 200-meter long beach, which actually has a bit of a dock that comes off of that. So like I said, Tambuli doubles as a resort, so it also has conference room facilities. So sometimes they'll have meetings. You don't see a lot of that, but occasionally they'll have a group that comes in. And the resort area is separate from the towers, and so the two don't really even mix. That's one of the things I really like about it. It is a resort, but it doesn't feel like it. And it's usually, out of all the times I've been there, I've never seen it crowded. All right, I want to show you what some of the units look like in Tambuli. And you're most likely to either rent either a studio or a one-bedroom, because most of the properties here in the towers are either a studio or a one-bedroom. There are a few two-bedrooms available, but they're harder to come by and they're much more expensive to rent. Now, there are tremendous ocean views from the balconies of some of these units. It depends which direction you're facing. In general, either it faces to the east, and so you see the sunrise, or to the west, and then you see the afternoon sun and then the sunset, right? So those are kind of your two choices. The one thing I would say is, as much as it's nice to see that sunset, you're going to have afternoon sun from 1 o'clock until dark hitting on those windows on that side, so it gets kind of hot in the unit. So I would say for Tambuli, really the downside is that you're 30 minutes away from any type of a major mall. And the largest mall in Cebu City, which is called Seaside Mall, is about 30 minutes away, and it's a really nice mall. It has everything you can possibly think of. It's something like 3 or 4 stories tall. I think it's 4. Lots of restaurants in there, and has a complete array of retail stores, many of them being U.S. brands. So you can kind of find anything that you need. I know most people talk about the Ayala Mall, which is more in Cebu City, downtown, but the Seaside Mall is actually bigger and has more options and a ton of restaurants. Okay, the other downside would be if you want to go to Cebu City to either the Ayala Mall or the business park or the IT park, it's going to be a full 45 to 60 minute drive from Tambuli to get to those locations. So it's really going to depend upon the time of day and the traffic, but it's not really a commutable distance if you were thinking that, right? So that's just one downside. You're on the coast and you're in the Mactan area, so you're almost an hour away from downtown Cebu City. And again, Tambuli is more of a resort destination, but one downside is that when you go outside the guard gate, it's very much like you're in the province. And unfortunately, right next door, there is one of those government properties with some squatter homes on government land. So the government could clear them out, but for now, they're, it's just very province looking. And that's the difference between Tambuli and Mactan New Town. Mactan New Town is completely its own city within city. You don't have any of that, right? So that's just one thing that's a difference. And the other thing is if you're up by the IT park, same thing. It's a self-contained city, so you're not going to deal with that. So it depends how you kind of view on that. I'm not judging one way or the other. I'm just saying when you come outside the guard gate, it's a bit, I'm going to call it provincial. Just kind of take that in consideration. Be sure to like and subscribe so others can read your thoughts and your comments as that should be a pretty interesting conversation as people weigh in with their thoughts as to whether they think I should live in this place and why, and what they would think for themselves. If you want to be notified on the next video coming out, because this is a series, just be sure you hit the notifications button, and then you'll be notified as the next one comes out. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for helping me with my expat challenge. I do appreciate it as I move much closer to select a final location within just the next couple of months. We'll see you in the next update.